Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have a special guest on, and it's always a pleasure when we get to have guests on that are from a different region in the world, because it's always good to hear about, business from different perspectives. And I remember my time of working down in Brazil, where I learned so much working and living in Brazil. So it's always
Yeah.
good to have a different perspective. And as all of the guests know, I always love talking to those that have a finance and accounting background. I mean, I'm a little biased because that's my background. So welcome to the show, Derren Joseph. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a privilege to be a part of your production.
Uh, well, it's our honor to have you on. Now, before we jump in and talk about, your business and what you're doing in Singapore and globally, what was your background before you started this business?
Well, I've done finance all my adult life. I honestly don't know anything else. My dad was a tax accountant. He qualified in London and then he moved to Florida and did the CPA exam. So it's kind of like in my blood. It's all I know.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now you said your dad was in London. I guess were you born in London or where were you originally from?
So both of my parents are originally from Trinidad, and I was born in South London, the not so nice part south of the river. And my dad moved to South Florida, and that's how I ended up in the US. So,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha, gotcha. Now, did your career start in the U.S. or did you immediately go international?
I guess I've always been kind of like playing musical chairs between these three places. So South Florida, the UK, and the Southern Caribbean. So Trinidad and some of the neighboring islands as well. So yeah, I've just been constantly moving around until 7 years ago I ended up in Singapore.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now, what triggered the Singapore move?
Well, I was working for a technology company, and it the job was it was my first experience at such a global role. So I had global responsibility, and I had to split my time between London and Seattle, and that was pretty intense. And when that was done, I was looking for another challenge. It was a contract role, and a recruiter said, "Well, what do you think about Abu Dhabi?" I said, "I'm not feeling it." "What do you think about Singapore?" "Yeah, I've never been to Asia before, so yeah, let's check it out." And that was it. Never looked back.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, you find that, I guess you say, the way of doing business in Singapore is quite different from all the other regions you've been in?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, there's some cultural sensitivities, and Singapore, if you know, Singapore is a really, really super small island. They're just like 5.3 million people, so it's really a hub for doing, and people use it as a hub for doing business in the region. So for Asia in general, it reminds me of Miami. Like Miami, it's not really about Miami from a business perspective. It's about the hub for Latin America and the Caribbean. You need to be in mind of that. And so Singapore does that. So yes, there are cultural sensitivities, but for the most part, business is business.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so we got the story of you started in one place, you're constantly going, moving, getting the new challenges. So what really spurred kind of the entrepreneurial side of you building a business around the skill set that you have?
Again, I have to blame my dad. I have a lot of daddy issues. So growing up, he hated working for people and he had his own practice. So that was the example, kind of like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, having that example in front of you, that was always my ambition. So even while I was working for people, I prefer contract roles as opposed to permanent roles. But eventually my ideal has been and always will be running my own show.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now, how's the journey been with, developing your own business with crossing international lines? I mean, how has that been?
I mean, there's only one answer. It's going to be a challenge, but when you're running your own show and you're trying to build your own business, it can only be a challenge. If it were easy, everyone would do it. So it is, it is what it is. It's a journey to understanding yourself and understanding your own limitations, understanding the environment in which you function, and trying to make the best choices you can.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now, how big is your organization?
So we run a small team. They're probably just about 14, 15 of us, but we're part of a larger accounting practice. So I'm a semi-autonomous unit within a larger accounting practice called Moore's Role in Asia Pacific. So we have about 30 offices in 11 countries. So as far north as Tokyo and Beijing, and all the way down through, Hong Kong, the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, as far south as Australia.
Gotcha. Now, with that team, was anyone on, I guess you say, in your smaller autonomous team, were they already moving with you, or was that all talent that that you brought on board when you got to Singapore?
So when I went to Singapore, I went to work for another business completely, and the sweetener that got me out there was the promise of partnership. But as the negotiations go, when I hit my targets and we sat at the table and we began to negotiate, we couldn't come to terms. So I went off and I formed my own unit. I formed my own company, and then eventually I saw an opportunity to join forces with a larger practice. So that's probably how it worked. So one or two of them were with me at the beginning, but actually no, probably about five or six. But for the most part, they came on board as I grew. Just kind of grew organically.
Hmm. Now, I guess were there any, I guess you say natural fears or just I guess you say diving into the unknown of building a team, all the way on the other side of the world from where you were. I mean, how was that process?
How was that process? I don't know. How do you describe it? It's multidimensional. So as I mentioned before, there's a cultural aspect, but then there's the pure business aspect, just trying to understand what the opportunities are. I work in US tax.
Okay.
So that's about networking within the community of expats or entrepreneurs or business owners who are doing business in Asia, who may be US exposed, but also that's the outbound side, but also the inbound side, networking with Asian business owners or investors who want to invest into the US. So I think the biggest challenge really is network, being connected, being in the right place in the right time, and having the right people trust you.
Okay. Now, for your firm, what are the areas of specialty, your firm works on?
So we do international tax. So it's a tax practice, just strictly tax. We do international tax in general. So this morning, I did something between Singapore and China. Somebody wanted some advisory work on that, but our main stuff is international US tax. So both advisory, like I want to invest in a business in, I don't know, Philippines or whatever. How do I structure it? So the advisory side and also the compliance, just doing the returns, just making sure people who are US exposed are compliant. So that's it.
Okay. Now, do you find that I guess you say the clients that you're working with, do they have an idea of the real complexity of investing internationally, or do they kind of come as like a blank slate, like, hey, this is what I want to do, but I actually have no idea what's involved?
I think by the time they get to someone like us, they would have a fair bit of experience and appreciation of what is involved. Because we don't go, I guess, fishing in areas where people are newbies. So we tend to deal with higher net worth clients as well, and they would have got to that stage in their own personal business journeys as a result of experience. So my point is, by the time they get to us, they're sufficiently aware of the complexity that they know they need professional advice, which is what we recommend. Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome. Now, where can people find you online or on social media?
So our website is htj.tax, as in TAX. So htj.tax, that's our main website. My main social media platform is LinkedIn. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn, but htj.tax, there we have some of the videos. So like we do our podcast as well. Some of the events we do. Well, before we used to host in-person seminars and networking events across Asia, but now everything is about webinars, and those webinars are there. So it's htj.tax.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the podcast, kind of, what's your themes or some of the topics that people can expect when they go check it out.
Right. So it was born of necessity because, as I mentioned before, our marketing was definitely 100% offline. And then this health crisis happened, so we had to immediately pivot. So what we started doing was, okay, how we have people on our network. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, as I mentioned. How can I remain? How can I keep awareness? How can I, maintain brand awareness or the presence of our potential clients and our existing clients without appearing to be annoying, right? Because tax is not the most fun thing, right? I kind of think we're like a dentist. You hate us, but you know you need us. So, and then I thought, well, I'm not going to talk about tax all day. So what I started doing is interviewing other business owners, entrepreneurs, people I consider to be thought leaders in my network. It could be as quick as half an hour. We've done 2.5 hours, depending on what we're going to talk about. And it's about finance. So, some hedge fund managers, what's going on in the markets, some wealth managers, how are you managing money for clients, an economist, what are the macroeconomic trends we need to be aware of. So just things that I think are of interest to our target demographic.
Okay.
Without being a hard sell. This is not a hard sell. I want to create real value add in the time that you invest listening to us.
Gotcha. Now, what's the name of the podcast if they're going like they're searching like on Spotify or Apple or anything?
Simple, HTJ Tax.
Got it.
HTJ space tax. Easy.
Perfect. Now, before we wrap up, one question that I always like to ask every guest that comes on is when you think about, your journey and you think about your area of expertise, what's two pieces of advice that you would share with other business owners that are looking to grow and scale their business?
Well, first of all, I believe the worst vice is advice. So I don't necessarily give advice, but, just believe in yourself. That's it. Those are my two pieces of advice. The worst vice is advice. Believe in yourself. That's it.
Awesome. Well, Derren, thank you so much for coming on the show. Definitely enjoyed having you on to hear a little bit more about your story. We'll definitely share some links so people can follow you on LinkedIn and to see all the great things that your business is doing and see how you're growing and, just dominating in the Asia region.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Please subscribe, like, share, and comment below. Our books and upcoming event are available at htj.tax. Email us at help@htj.tax to engage us, to advise on international tax or business matters.